Hello everyone. Welcome to MP Self Cine Podcast. I'm here with Arcelia. Say hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. How's your week been?
Been so. I've been doing pretty well.
Oh, that's good to
I
hear.
went out and everything. How
That's
about
good.
you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty good. Basically been like working on stuff and just chilling, really. That's mostly what I've been doing. But yeah. Let's get started with our general questions. So, what sort of mental health struggles have you been facing lately?
So lately, I've been struggling with depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of work against each other in a very frustrating way for me.
Yeah.
The way that, how depression makes me feel like completely drained and just uninterested in everything.
Mm-hmm.
While anxiety makes me guilty or panicked for not being able to do anything. So I've been stuck in that kind of cycle lately.
Oh, I know how that feels. I struggle with the same things, especially in the past. Like I know that feeling of like you can't really do anything because your brain is not really working with you. It's kind of preventing you from doing things you enjoy because now everything is like not interesting. Everything is kind of blah, and then you feel anxious because you need to do some things and you feel like you can't. Stuff like that. I've felt that before. Maybe it's a little different for you, but that's what I felt. Okay, how does this affect your mental health? I guess you kind of answered this, but would you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah, I think well, first of all, the way that this happens makes me very unproductive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm already experiencing those mental issues and then I just can't be productive, it makes everything worse. And it makes me spiral down into something that I can't bring myself out of.
Yeah.
And like, it's very tiring, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very draining on your mental health. And it makes me feel a bit helpless too. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. And despite, like, in theory, I know what I should do, right? Because I've seen people who go through the same things. And in theory, I know what I should do, but I'm unable to do it because of those issues. Like, those mental issues are making me unable to do anything that theoretically should help me.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Oh no, I get that. I get that
and
entirely.
and also, like, I'm unfortunately also unable to enjoy the things that I usually do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of both the anxiety and the depression. Um, First of all, the depression, of course, already makes you feel like just completely numb to everything. But
Mm-hmm.
also, um, when you're in that state and you try to pull yourself up by maybe doing your hobbies or something you enjoy, you feel anxious because, like, I could be doing more productive things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than these things that I do for fun. And then that in turn also makes me feel guilty.
Yeah. No, I understand. Uh, so how do you try to cope with such issues?
So, really, it really depends. I think sometimes I find it easier to just like bring myself up. I'm not sure why. I think it might be because when when I have a consistency, like either it's work or classes, I can like force myself to get up and actually be productive, and then I will slowly get better because I am being productive. But when I don't have that kind of constant, I get stuck more deeper. Like it's harder for me to heal or to get better, and then I usually try to introduce some kind of consistency in my life without those like classes or work.
Mm-hmm.
Just something smaller, like trying to make a habit of getting up at a certain time in the morning, for example,
Yeah.
or like stuff like journaling, stuff like that, you know. And also, again, this affects my productivity more than anything else. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's the worst part of it. So I try not to beat myself up so much for not being as productive as usual. And I also try to do stuff like more stuff around like self-care,
Yeah.
because usually when I'm depressed, I just don't do anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't do any like self-care, like skincare routine. I don't
Mm-hmm.
do that. I don't exercise. I just kind of bed rot all day.
Mm-hmm.
So then I try to do those things. Like maybe I try exercising at least like a few minutes per day. It would already make me feel a lot better, even if it's just for a few minutes.
That's good. That's good. Do you feel that you're successful at handling it?
I think it depends
Mm-hmm.
on, well, on which, like right now, for example, I feel like I'm a bit better. Like there are times where it gets worse, but
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, at where I am in life right now, I feel like I've handled it enough times to know what I'm doing at least, and to know that this is something that will pass.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Um, this is another question, I guess. How do you think we could improve at handling such issues in general or personally?
I think, well, there are a lot of like people, at least in my country right now,
Mm-hmm.
and where I live, at least. I live in Indonesia, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's like still a lot of like people who think it's taboo to talk about mental issues.
Yeah.
Um, and then there are also people who belittle it, thinking that, well, it's not really a real problem, because it's not really visible.
Yeah.
I think that we should be just, in general, we should just be kinder people. And I know that's really hard, but also I think when we're kinder to people, others, and kinder to ourselves, instead of like, well, instead of belittling others for the issues that we cannot see or we cannot comprehend, I think that would be a big help to improving how it is right now.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Um, I think to those people that think it's not a real problem, especially thinking that it's not a physical issue, it is actually a physical issue. Not
Right.
only can depression affect your physical health in terms of like not only appearance, like you take less care of yourself
Mhm.
because you don't feel so good. It can also increase your cortisol levels, which is the stress hormone. it also increases your
Right.
immune response to always heightened to a heightened level where it's always active, which can really drain your body. So it really can affect your physical health too, and it's not an issue to be taken lightly. Not only can it cause people to take their own life, it can just like affect them physically. It can cause harm to those around them. It can do like so much. So it's a real issue that we do need to
Yeah.
have awareness for. Which,
It's really unfortunate
yeah.
because in where I live again,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, people, well, not for some reason, I know the reason. It's just really sad, but they still think that people with mental illnesses are insane or crazy, which is
Yeah.
really, it really breaks my heart each time they say stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like, oh man.
Because they don't realize that actually a large, not a majority of people, but a large minority. There's a large minority that do face mental health issues, and it's actually
Mhm.
still a large amount considering like population and stuff. It's a large percentage, and everyone has different mental health issues. Not all of them look the same way. Not all of them act the same way. Not everyone is like one way or another, because a lot of times with some presenting issues, people think that they are crazy because they don't understand what's going on. I say to that, basically try to do some research, try to understand different mental health issues. I really think psychology should be an important, like maybe like a high school class alongside like a health class.
Right.
I think that would really help.
Yeah.
Which brings us
We've
to our next
had.
question. Oh, sorry. Continue,
Mhm.
continue.
Well, I think back when I was at school, there wasn't really a psychology class,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, but there were fortunately some seminars.
Yeah.
So they would have seminars about mental issues, which
Mm-hmm.
I think really helped a lot for me and my friends to understand, and for
Yeah.
me personally to feel not so alienated. Like, I didn't really feel so alone
Mm-hmm.
because I know that these people are also experiencing the same things I am, and they are successful people. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that I could be like them as well, right?
Yeah.
And they don't seem to be insane, at least not in the manner that other people speak about those mental illnesses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that brings us to our next question. What are ways we could raise awareness for such issues?
Mhm. I think other than those, like those seminars, I think that should be held for um for all ages, really. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's important for both young people to know, and
Mm-hmm.
also for the old people, because um I think some of the, what is it called, stereotypes we
Mm-hmm.
get about those mental illnesses come from the older generation.
Yes.
Not to generalize, but that's from my
Mm-hmm.
experience, at least. I feel like if they knew more about it, they might not make such comments, at least
Mm-hmm.
I hope so. And other than that, I feel like um I really like seeing media about mental illness issues, like not in a very, not in a direct way, but I mean like stories or games or books that are about characters with mental illnesses that make them feel um that show that they're human,
Yeah.
things that we can relate to, um though they might not be perfectly accurate. For example, like Omori, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty
That
popular.
one's a really good one.
It's not entirely. Yeah, it's very good, and it also makes you feel a lot of things, right? I feel like we need those kinds of moving media that makes people relate or empathize or sympathize,
Mm-hmm.
and that would make people with mental illnesses look, well, not look exactly. It will make people who don't know about those mental illnesses to realize that, oh, these issues are real and they aren't so, so distant. Like, these
Yeah.
are happening around me. um and people who have these issues aren't crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when we play Omori, for example, I don't think like people would normally think of the main character as someone who's like insane in a demeaning manner that people would
Yeah.
talk about when that people would say when they're talking about mental illnesses, right?
Yeah.
I wish that people with mental illnesses were seen as more human than just like crazy other beings that don't seem so human
Mm-hmm.
in the eyes of those people.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not sure how to do it, but I really wish that mental the the ugly parts of mental issues are also um that I wish that it was, how do I say this, that people were more aware of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people know about depression, anxiety, but they don't really know how bad it could get.
Yeah.
And when they see how bad it gets, they just get like disgusted, right?
Mm-hmm.
um I think that's really that can trigger someone, it's really
Mm-hmm.
bad. You shouldn't say such things, but that's why I wish people knew more about it, even like literally everything, maybe even the ugly parts.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Especially not only with anxiety and depression, but I wish for
Mhm.
other mental health issues to also be not othered and also be humanized,
Mhm.
because they are human issues, and a lot of times they're demonized because people see them as crazy because they don't understand what's going on inside their head and they don't have empathy. So I completely agree that um, I think we could raise awareness with such media that helps to move people, and of course, like the seminars, like we mentioned, things like that, like classes and like seminars and whatnot. I think those are really good ways that um, people could implement spreading awareness for such issues to the public. And for our next question, is awareness for this important?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of I feel like there was like a rise in people talking about mental illnesses
Yes.
recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, there are still a lot of misunderstandings. Um, I think that awareness isn't just about knowing what those illnesses are, but also how they could um manifest and
Mm-hmm.
how people could help people who have those illnesses.
Yes.
I think everything about that is important, right? And again, definitely, since awareness about these issues could definitely help with humanizing them. I really like that word. I just realized it's what I've been looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that I think it's really important to spread awareness and just like have awareness in general for these things. Again, like you mentioned, people that don't really have awareness for these issues tend to demonize them. They tend to think people as crazy, and I think that awareness and learning about these issues and what they really truly mean, in terms of how they affect people and how to help people, is really important. So I completely agree. What are ways? No. That was the previous question. How can we be safe and supported when dealing with these struggles?
So, in my personal experience, I actually got a lot of help from my friends. They're basically like my support system.
Yeah.
I'm actually the type of person that doesn't really open up a lot. So I just have issues with with opening myself to others. And moreover, I also feel bad when I'm talking about these issues. So the thing with depression and anxiety, for example, it makes me unable to work on what I'm supposed to work on, right? And that in turn makes me feel worse. And the thing is, in my head, talking about it won't help me because talking about it won't change anything, right? In my head, that's how it goes. Like, even if I, for example, even if I vent to my friends, it's not like my work will be done and I'll be happy or anything, right? My work will still be undone and I will still be just unable to be productive. And therefore, I would be stuck in this cycle alone, just not talking to anybody because I feel that it's useless. Fortunately, fortunately, my friends are just total angels, and they know that I'm always like stuck in the cycle. Well, not always, but they know when I am stuck there, and they would be like, "Hey, do you want to hang out? Do you want to talk? Do you want to do anything?" And because I can't say no. I would just go with them, and then they would like they would not exactly make me talk, but that environment that we create when we're together, like when I'm together with them, because they're my support system, I feel comfortable enough. I feel safe and supported during that, and I would actually like start to talk about my issues. And although my work would still be unfinished, I would still feel way better because I feel understood, I feel seen, I feel like I'm not so alone after all. It's even just that is really helpful for me already.
So I guess what I'm gathering from this is, do you think having a support system like friends or family is a great way to be safe and supported?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, okay. Next question. Would you say your depression or anxiety affects positively or negatively in streaming or recording?
So, wait, I'm not sure I've told you, but I'm a pre-debut VTuber, right?
Oh,
so
okay, so you haven't
really
started yet.
Yeah.
No, okay, then then we could go to our next question. Let's see. Do you think it's a trait or a handicap? Your depression and anxiety.
I think it's mostly a handicap because, again, I was gonna say if it didn't affect me, but the fact is it does. So if it didn't affect me and my productivity so much, I think I honestly wouldn't like mind it so much. As in, you know how depression mostly affects, for me, it affects how it makes me not care about things. I think I would be fine with that if it's just that alone. You know, if I could still work despite that, I think I wouldn't care so much about it.
Yeah.
But because it makes me unable to work, I think that's just that part is the handicap. Everything else I can live with, honestly. However, I think also I've lived with depression for so long that I feel like it might be a part of my personality at this point.
Yeah.
You know how people say that you might lose your whimsy if your mental illnesses are gone. At some point I wondered if that was true for myself.
Yeah, I've had that same experience. For me, I am diagnosed with chronic depression, specifically what's it called? I forgot the scientific name for it, but it's basically chronic depression. And for a long time, I was afraid of getting medication because I thought I would lose myself, and I thought that this is who I was, like on the inside. It's kind of hard to see
Yeah.
past that because you think that suddenly, like, you'll become a different person and that you're not the same anymore. It's not really like that. I've discovered, at least on medication, I've actually become a lot happier. I've actually discovered my personality more, and that I can be joyful. I can, like, I can not be a downer all the time. Honestly, like with myself and others, and that like I I just feel a lot happier, and like I can enjoy things that I used to enjoy in the first place, and kind of rediscovering myself. I think it's kind of interesting because I know a lot of people with depression, especially if it's like long term, they kind of forget what they used to be like, and that um, especially if it's like from childhood, then it's even harder. But I say that um, that you won't change like as a person, like you won't become a fundamentally different person. You'll still be the same. You won't like lose sight of yourself or anything. You'll actually discover more things you like, and find the happy parts of yourself, I think, and like that joy and whimsy.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
joy and whimsy.
yeah. And what about your anxiety? Like, how does it? Would you like to elaborate on how that affects you a little bit more? Because I know we talked a little bit more about depression, but what about the anxiety?
So, um, I when I'm on holiday, let's say, when I'm
Mm-hmm.
on holiday, or when I don't have classes or work or anything to do that I have to get to at that, like, immediately, or
Mm-hmm.
when I have when I don't have like a deadline or something to do, I always get anxious. It's so stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life, every time there's like a long holiday, for example, when it's Christmas, New
Mm-hmm.
Year's, I would just get like I would get anxious, and then I would get depressed because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's very stupid. I mean, like, who gets anxious on holiday? Oh my god. But yeah, that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue with me currently is I'm working on my thesis,
Mm-hmm.
but my thesis doesn't really have a set due date. So even though I have something to do, since it doesn't have a due date, it's like I first of all, I cannot really work on it because of the depression. It's just I'm frozen. I don't know how to explain it, but that's how it feels like. Um, and then my anxiety just every time I try to do it, it would go like, why are you only doing this now? You know,
Mm-hmm.
you've had like all year to finish this, and you're only working on it now. And then my mind would beat myself up like that. Like it would just
Yeah.
throw all these negative words. So then, like a normal person, I would stop and I would try to do something else. And then of course it goes like, why are you doing this instead of your thesis?
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny if you think about it. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, I've experienced that before. Actually, in our previous podcast episode, we were talking about the
Mhm.
potentially unhealthy method of a lot of people using work to distract themselves, and also
Mhm.
a lot of times how work can become someone's unhealthy coping mechanism. So like a lot of times people will continually work and work, and the moment they don't have work, then suddenly the anxiety comes back, the depression comes back. Suddenly, like, all their issues come to rise, and then they use work as a way to feel better, but not realizing that they should be also using other methods too to feel better, and that work can become unhealthy, that sometimes you will stress yourself out more without work because you're so used to doing it. Especially, like, I know for me, I used to, in college, in my previous major, I was basically a game programmer, and we worked like all the time, like constantly. And the moment that I didn't have work, I would feel like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Because then I'm like, I need to do something, because otherwise, like, I get all depressed, and like I start thinking, I start thinking, and then it kind of becomes unhealthy because I started relying on needing to work. I need to do work or something to basically, I guess, like, distract my mind, but also to because if I didn't work, then I felt unproductive, and then I basically felt like, well, I can't enjoy these things because I need to do something productive instead. I need to be productive all the time. Otherwise it's a waste, type of thing. So it can be unhealthy too. I think how I used to deal with that is basically rewiring how I think, and that is that if I'm doing stuff I enjoy, I am being productive, and that's because I am actually helping myself heal. I am basically I am creating something, I am doing something, I'm not just like laying around. If I'm doing something at all, then that's fine. And even if I'm laying down, that's also being productive, because I'm basically allowing my mind to rest, and that way it can be more effective later. So it's kind of just rewiring how you think sometimes, I think. It depends.
I see. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, I think. It could be hard because I think the problem with anxiety is that when those voices are there, the negative ones, it's really hard to listen to the positive stuff, right? Even when other people tell you, like, you're doing fine, even just the smallest of progress is already progress. Like, this, but with the negative voices all in your head, it's really hard to think about it or believe it, right?
Yeah, I understand, because what I learned is actually in human psychology, people do tend to focus on the negative over the positive. If there's even one negative thing, then people will focus on that, because that's inherent to human survival. That it doesn't matter what happened before, there's something bad now, and we need to solve that. The brain wants to solve it. And so the problem is that when it comes to mental health, that means we focus so much on the negative voices in our head, because those seem to be the important ones to our brains. And when sometimes they're not helpful, sometimes they can be really harmful, because they can tell you all sorts of things and never, like, actually solve the problem. So sometimes it does take that rewiring of the brain, to basically force yourself to say these positive things to yourself, but also not only having a support system tell you these things, but also doing the things too. So like every time you take a nap or something, you could be like, I am healing my brain, I am resting it so I can be productive later. And that is in itself productive. Or like if you're, for me, like I draw, and so I'm being productive by drawing because I am creating something. I am being productive by watching something because I am allowing my brain to basically not only get stimulus so it can wake up, but also I am basically allowing rest time further, but also problem solving and like other things. Like if I'm watching a show and it's like a puzzle or something, like we're thinking of who's the bad guy, for instance, then that in itself is like productive because it's like problem solving. It's like puzzling for your brain. It's working out your brain. So even things like that, like watching a show, can be productive if you frame it right. You just have to find ways to frame things.
It's really interesting, I think. I don't disagree. I think this is an amazing way to think about things. I think it's amazing. It's hard to believe for me personally because again, when depression hits and I cannot do anything, unfortunately, some people would instead frame me as someone who's lazy, right?
Yeah.
Lazy is it's a word that comes up a lot. Right? And so I think thinking about things in the way that you do is actually super helpful. I think I should try doing that.
Yeah. And I understand it's really hard, especially with depression, because now that I'm on medication, I'm able to do these things a lot easier. But when I wasn't, it was way harder. It was like sometimes it felt almost impossible to do these things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really hard to believe like these things because your brain's really like insistent that no, it's not, you're being lazy, or like you're not being productive, you're all this and that, and like saying all these mean things to you. Sometimes that it's really hard to get out of that spiral. So I understand why it's also difficult too. So sometimes it's also required to have outside help. This can be in the form of medication or therapy. These things do really help to learn how to rewire your brain. Sometimes medication is the only way that people are able to do it. Like for me, that was the only way I was able to get to this point. For others, it might be therapy to help like them rewire their brain in terms of thinking. Sometimes it's like other methods, like in between medication and therapy, like different forms of therapy that are more like physical and stuff. There's different things, there's different ways, because some things, like me telling you like to think a certain way, can work for some people, but for others it's like I just can't do that. And that's why it's okay to look into other methods too.
Yeah, I'm really glad that despite how in some places mental illness is still taboo, I'm glad that we are able to get the help that we can now. Again, in some places, some other unfortunate places cannot yet. But I'm glad that we seem to be getting better at handling mental illnesses in a general sense.
Yeah. Hi, Elite Agent. Hello, how you doing? We are close to the end of our little podcast thing right now. It's a mental health podcast. We're talking about depression and anxiety, especially how it affects us and ways that we can cope with it and whatnot, and different experiences. If you'd like to talk about that, feel free. But yeah, so another thing I wanted to ask, because we've been talking a little bit about like how society handles it.
Yep.
Like especially different countries. I know in America, it's gotten a little more accepting. It's not perfect. There's still a lot of old-fashioned people that like still think that people are crazy or that it's not real. And you said in like your country in Indonesia that it's kind of similar. There's a lot of people that still think the same. I guess how would you say that we could handle that, or like what can we do about that, if it's even possible, or like even what do you think about that?
I think that it's not impossible. I don't think it's impossible at all, actually. Public opinion is not impossible to sway. I think, again, with the awareness, with more awareness, I think once they understand it more, once they're not afraid of it, I think they will change their opinions about it. That's the thing. We need to, like, in a way, make it more known, but not just the well, how do I say this? We have to make it more known, but have the whole thing known, as in like make sure that it's not misinformation that's being spread.
Yeah.
And I feel like when people have more awareness, more knowledge, more, when they know more about how to handle these things, they won't be as afraid of it, and they won't demonize it as much.
Hi Sayan. Hello. We're talking about depression and anxiety. How right now we're talking about society and like how we can handle it, what we think about it, especially in terms of like our different countries and like how people in those different societies treat mental health. Where we were talking about our experiences and basically like coping methods and whatnot. So if you'd like to like chat with us, feel free. Arcelia, I think you were talking. What were you saying?
I was just repeating, like, I think what we were talking about earlier about the seminars, the classes, and of course the media. I think those could go a long way to changing the public opinion, since they would make knowledge about mental illnesses more accessible for everybody. And also show them in a way that makes them actually look human, right?
Yeah.
Actually humanize them.
Yeah. Kind of like what we talked before, I really think that schools should implement more seminars, more like classes and stuff regarding health and mental health, things like that, like a psychology class, a mandatory psychology class, because that way we can teach our younger generations about these issues in a informative way, and also humanize people that way. We also mentioned media. That's also really important, and I think that's probably one of the most important, because if mandatory classes are not allowed, then a lot of times people gain their knowledge of these issues from media, Sometimes that could be from news reports, which can negatively impact people with these mental health issues, because they can report on the negative things a lot of times, because that's what people focus on. But if we have media like video games and like novels and all sorts of things, like videos and like things like this, like podcasts and whatnot, where we talk about it, these things can really help spread awareness, I think.
Yeah, I think these kind of podcasts also help
Mhm.
because we're talking about real experiences, right?
Yeah.
Not in a manner where we're talking about it as professionals,
Mhm.
but something more personal, right?
Yeah.
We've experienced these things, so that we're
Yes.
talking about it now.
Yeah. Like, I like inviting all these different people because it's really good to hear different voices, different opinions, different experiences, because while people with certain mental health issues have certain shared experiences like symptoms and whatnot, sometimes the symptoms can vary in severity. They can have different experiences, like life experiences. There's all sorts of different things. And so the more people we have to talk about these issues, I really think the more people can find themselves to be seen in a way. That's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I also felt alone. Sorry, how do I word that? I feel back then when I was
Mhm.
young, I've had depression since I was very young. I think, like, I moved from a countryside to a city,
Mhm.
and when I moved, it was such a big change. I couldn't like adapt, and that was one of the main causes of it. And also, I got separated from my friend, who was at the time the person I was closest to.
Mhm.
And then I was just like, I felt really alone and I didn't really know what was going on with me. I was like, what, 6, 7,
Mhm.
and I didn't really know what was going on. I feel like if I knew somebody who was experiencing such things, maybe through cartoons or something, I wouldn't feel um so alone and so confused, because it was a really weird experience when you were a child and you were just like numb and sad all the time, and everybody else in your school was like super chill and happy. It
Mhm.
makes you really confused, like, what is wrong with me, right?
Mhm. Yeah. For me, my depression started at like, I think 13, around puberty, um, due to genetics. Um, for the longest time, I always thought, like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I be happy? Like, why is everyone else able to do these things and I'm not? Some of this was due to other issues I have, but generally with the depression, it kind of affected, like, um, basically how I like thought, how I like acted,
Mhm.
because I was always very um, shy, but also very down all the time, and I would get jealous of people because of like the fact that they could be so happy or they had things that I didn't, and it was really hard. I know, like, um I was not like the best person back then, like when I was like a kid, because of these issues were undiagnosed, and basically how I would treat those around me out of spite. I was I was not the most positive person back then. Um,
I see.
yeah, so nowadays I'm able to be a lot happier on medication. I finally found a medication that works for me after trying many different ones with the help of
Oh,
my psychiatrist. Um,
congratulations.
hmm?
I'm glad you found one that worked
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. And it's been a lot better now. I do have down times sometimes. Like I'm not always happy like like a normal person, you know? I'm not always like sad though
Mhm.
and or numb. That was something I used to struggle with was numbness. Um
Yeah.
because it's like you feel down to the point where you just feel numb basically. Where just everything is blah, everything is not fun, everything is not enjoyable, everything is stressful, everything is kind of just more reason to feel down. So it was not fun. It was not fun. Um, I'm a lot better now though, but for those that are still struggling, maybe let's see. What would you say to those that are still struggling with depression or anxiety?
Well, as cliche as this sounds, I do want them to know that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they can get the get the help that they they should get, and I hope that they can get up from whatever issues they're experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope they have better days ahead of them.
Yeah, I think so too. And with that, I think we'll end here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Um, I'll be posting this also on YouTube uh, with Arcelia's links. Um, Thank you for joining us, Arcelia. And
Thank you for having me.
of course, of course. Yeah, this was a really nice experience. And with that, I'm actually going to be streaming again in about 2 hours and 30 minutes at 1:30 p.m. CST with just chatting. So if you guys want to join back then, feel free. But otherwise, I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.